I'm pregnant with the world's greediest baby, and today she was craving a sandwich so sinful that I almost felt guilty eating it. She wanted peanut butter, she wanted bacon, and she wanted it paired with caramelized bananas. For the record, TikTok is actually to blame for this one because someone suggested that we try the famous Elvis sandwich, and since then the baby hasn't been able to stop thinking about it. So we buttered 2 slices of bread and then flipped them over and nut buttered the other sides. We opted for smooth on one side and crunchy on the other. We did debate long and hard over the merits of raw versus cooked banana for this sandwich. I thought raw would be best, but the baby insisted that we fry them in butter and honey, so that's exactly what we did. Once the banana was sufficiently sexy looking, it was time to compile. We popped the bacon on the smooth side and the banana on top of the crunchy peanut butter before popping it back in the pan to toast it. I actually had a hospital appointment this week, and there was a sign on the TV screen that said eating for 2 is a myth and that you don't need extra calories when you're pregnant, and I have never been more offended in my whole life. I will be assuming that a man wrote that piece of advice. Anyway, the sandwich itself had just the right amount of crunch to it. It was sweet, it was salty, and it was everything my unborn child hoped it would be. And if you made it to the end of this video, please give us a follow to see what the baby's craving next. I'm pregnant with the world's greediest baby, and today she was craving a sandwich so big I practically had to unhinge my jaw just to eat it. She wanted hot honey halloumi, she wanted butter fried shallots, and she very specifically wanted them on Kalamata olive bread. And before the calorie police come at me, I am aware we accidentally used like a third of a loaf of bread to make this, but growing a human takes a lot of energy. So after slathering the bread in pesto and olive oil, we butter fried our shallots until they were golden. Then in the same pan we cooked our halloumi in more butter and honey until it looked as sexy as I once was before pregnancy. Because I'm growing a fitness influencer over here, the baby also wanted a bed of thick cut tomatoes and fresh basil for our halloumi to rest its perfect self on, and just a drizzle of balsamic glaze for some throat lubrication. Then it was time to compile. We stacked our honey fried halloumi and topped it with all of the butter fried shallots before tucking it safely under the other slice of bread. Also, so many people commented on my last video telling me to stop blaming the baby for my out of control sandwich cravings, but this child is genuinely a bad influence and I won't be held responsible for her suggestions. The sandwich itself was everything we hoped it would be. Sweet, salty, moist, and better looking than Brad Pitt in his heyday. And if you've made it to the end of this video, please give us a follow to see what the baby's craving next. I'm pregnant with the world's greediest baby, and today she was craving an entire steak dinner sandwich between slices of melted cheese on toast, slathered in a chimichurri dressing. And let me tell you, not a single calorie was spared in the making of this sandwich. I did try and have a conversation with her about calorie control, but she was having none of it, so I thought it best to just give her what she wants. After pan frying the ciabatta in butter and olive oil, we added cheese and grilled it till melty perfection. Then we caramelized onions in butter and honey before adding them to our base. Then it was time to give the fillet steak a little butter bath in my favourite pan. I was actually listening to the Diary of a CEO podcast this week, and apparently pregnant women need to be eating choline for the baby's brain development, and steak has plenty of choline in it. So this sandwich is actually a pregnancy superfood. You just can't argue with that kind of science. Now, the baby has never made a chimichurri sauce before, but I thought it wasn't bad for her very first attempt, especially considering she's not even out the womb yet. We finished it off by topping our creation off with fries that are skinnier than me before I was pregnant. I hand sliced them myself before tossing them in rosemary and air frying them. The verdict? This sandwich was bloody delicious. I might not have a waist or be able to touch my toes anymore, but at least I have carbs. And if you made it to the end of this video, please give us a follow to see what the baby's craving next. I'm pregnant with the world's greediest baby, and today she was craving something so scandalous that I almost said no to her. She wanted a Nutella cheese toastie with blueberry jam and salted pretzels. I did feel bad for a minute because should I be feeding my unborn child melted cheese and chocolate for lunch? But then I remembered that back in the 80s, they all used to drink and worse through their entire 9 months, so a bit of cheese and chocolate might be okay. I actually ended up picking up this Bon Maman hazelnut spread because it winked at me as I walked past it on the way to pick up the Nutella, and I was not disappointed. Then for health purposes, we decided to add some crushed hazelnuts and a little wall of salted pretzels for that extra crunch. This is when things took a little bit of a turn. On the other slice of giraffe loaf, the baby wanted butter and brie, which I then popped under the grill for her until it was nice and gooey. Then we honey buttered a pan and went in with some fresh blueberries. Now, I'm not sure if homemade jam typically has butter in it. I didn't bother to look up a recipe, but if it doesn't, I definitely think that it should because butter just makes everything better. I think the most fun part of making these sandwiches, other than eating them, is being married to a personal trainer who would probably prefer I put the baby on a diet of grilled chicken, Greek yogurt and broccoli, but he doesn't get a say, and at this point he's too scared of the pregnancy hormones to argue. As for the sandwich, to coin Janice from Friends, oh my god.
Incredible.
Did anyone else know that chocolate spread and melted cheese was an elite combination? Because I was not aware. Rating this sandwich an 11 out of 10. And if you made it to the end of this video, please give us a follow to see what the baby's craving next. I'm pregnant with the world's greediest baby, and today she was craving an entire dessert sandwich between 2 slices of bread. She wanted a lemon and blueberry cheesecake sandwich with a crushed digestive biscuit centre. I was dubious about it, but she assured me that this counted as 2 of her 5 a day and was in fact an acceptable lunch. I didn't need telling twice, so we started off by frying our bread in butter just to give it a sexy little crust. While that was cooking, I popped a block of ricotta into the blender with some maple syrup and whipped it up. The ricotta was then lovingly spread on both slices of bread to serve as the cheese to our cake. And if anyone says I'm not allowed ricotta while pregnant, I might just scream, because I've already given up wine, coffee, painted nails and fitting into my clothes. Surely enough is enough. On slice 1, we layered lemon curd, lemon zest and crushed digestive biscuits, because biscuits just make everything so much better. Then for the second slice, we whipped up a lazy person's homemade blueberry jam, which we would pile on top of the ricotta before topping with crushed hazelnuts. And by the way, as cravings go, I don't even think this is a bad one. I've had at least 3 different women in the comments telling me that their only pregnancy craving was sponge, like the kind you do the dishes with. So this is definitely more nutritious than that. I knew from the moment that I put the 2 pieces together and dusted it with happiness powder that this sandwich was going to be good, and not that I expected anything less, but it was in fact a 10 out of 10 and 100% my type on paper.
Wow.
Which really begs the question, why are dessert sandwiches not more of a thing?
This is insane. Absolutely insane.
And if you made it to the end of this video, please give us a follow to see what the baby's craving next. I'm pregnant with the world's greediest baby, and today she wanted a McDonald's apple pie sandwich with an oozing custard centre. And because custard is one of my many weaknesses in life, I was just not in a position to say no to her. Since the baby has never actually eaten McDonald's before, I don't know who gave her this idea, but I can assure you that it wasn't me, because I was planning on eating grilled chicken today. We fried off our apples in honey, butter, ground cinnamon and nutmeg and let them simmer until they took on a sexy caramel colour. So far, practically a fruit salad. The outside of the sandwich had to have a crunch to it, so we decided to go heavy on the butter and then combine brown sugar with cinnamon and slather it on before cooking them face down on a buttered griddle. And yes, to those who are wondering, butter is the key ingredient to my entire life. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that butter and bread are the main reasons why I don't currently have a set of washboard flat abs. On the inside of the cinnamon toast, we laid the caramelized apple, which we would top off with crushed shortbread biscuits and of course ambrosia custard, because that was the stuff my childhood was built on. In fact, when it comes to apple pie, I will forever be a custard over ice cream kind of person, and not the fancy Madagascar vanilla type custard either. Because I'm already at the point in my pregnancy where 90% of my clothes don't fit, we saw no extra harm in dusting the entire thing off with some happiness powder. And I'm not gonna lie, there are a lot of downsides to being pregnant. I have insomnia, I have the worst acid reflux, and I literally breathe heavier than Darth Vader now, but at least I have food. And as food goes, this apple pie sandwich was sensational.
How is it actually? Fucking incredible.
I'm pregnant with the world's greediest baby, and today she was craving a double cheese, double bacon, ready salted crisp and gherkin sandwich, which I'm aware sounds like it was invented by a 5-year-old, but I never promised anyone that any of these cravings would make sense. So we started off with a feta and olive focaccia as our base. Then on a board we laid cream cheese, pickled cornichons, crispy bacon and dill and chopped it into a schmear for our bread. Then, and I'm judging myself here so you don't need to, we popped on the entire rest of the pack of bacon. Meanwhile, in the upsetting world of pregnancy symptoms, I think my IQ has started to drop. The other day I spent a good 15 minutes looking for my phone only to find it in the fridge. And apparently this is just normal because you lose 5% of your brain's grey matter in pregnancy, only I'm not sure I had 5% to spare. Anyway, back to our sandwich. The baby then decided we urgently needed a melted cheddar cheese blanket for our bacon to sleep under. And if at this point you're thinking this seems like a pretty demure sandwich, then hold on to your hamsters, because the baby then wanted a layer of gherkins followed by a whole packet of crushed ready salted crisps. And while I'm over here listening to every sandwich craving this baby wants, my personal trainer husband has decided to get into the best shape of his life for summer 2026. I assume just to spite me. In my most humble of opinions, he shouldn't be allowed a 6-pack while I have to have the body shape of a baby hippopotamus. As for the true love of my life, this sandwich, it was incredible. We gave the humble cheese and gherkin sandwich a bigger glow up than Kylie Jenner in 2014, and as for that cheese blanket in the middle, it did not disappoint.
Sensational.
I'm pregnant with the world's greediest baby, and today she was craving an entire burrata with honey buttered peaches, crushed pistachios and salt and vinegar crisps on toasted sourdough. And if you think this combination doesn't make any sense, hold on to your hot dogs while the baby and I prove you wrong. We started off with a sourdough loaf and topped that with about 1,000 calories worth of olive oil and a sprinkle of oregano before toasting that on our griddle. Then, once it looked hotter than Brendan Fraser in the original Mummy movie, we topped it off with an entire burrata, which is in fact the correct serving size for one person, despite what the serving suggestion on the packet might say. Then we honey buttered a pan and popped in our sliced peaches to caramelise. Also, in the new world of pregnancy symptoms, I now wake up every single night at 3 a.m. for an extra meal because somehow this child thinks that I'm underfeeding her. Once the peaches look sexy enough to sit on Hugh Hefner's right arm, we pop them on top of our little burrata blanket before topping them with crushed pistachios and a generous drizzle of balsamic glaze. If I wasn't deep in the baby brain trenches right now, the baby and I would have also added a drizzle of honey at this point, but the 5 brain cells that I have left in pregnancy forgot to communicate that to each other. And because this is very clearly a fancy sandwich that you eat with your pinky out, regular crisps just wouldn't do, so we opted for some posh, hand-cooked salt and vinegar crisps from Marks and Spencer's. I don't actually remember the last time I bought a share bag of crisps. I stopped adding them to my food shop because I realised the only person I would ever share them with was myself. As for this sandwich, it was sublime and the baby loved every mouthful. And if you've made it to the end of this video, please give us a follow to see what the baby's craving next. I'm pregnant with the world's greediest baby, and today she was craving something so scandalous I could practically hear the Mystique song playing in the background as we devoured it. She wanted a peanut butter jam crisp sandwich paired with a chocolate hazelnut spread and melted cheese. And I know it sounds a little wild, but stick with me on this one because I swear to you, these flavours belong together. So after topping our brioche with raspberry jam, we hand crushed our mature cheddar and chive crisps and then topped them with a very healthy serving of crunchy dark roast peanut butter. I wasn't 100% sure that mature cheddar crisps and peanut butter would work in harmony with each other, but it turns out that opposites really do attract because I could have eaten this with a spoon. We then layered our crisp and peanut butter combination on top of the jam brioche base. Also, to all the people in the comments asking what I'm going to do when the baby arrives, I'm just hoping that she'll accept the position as my full-time recipe creator and head chef, and in exchange I'll repay her efforts with sandwich flavoured breast milk. Now that's settled, on the other slice we lovingly spread a layer of chocolate hazelnut spread, crunchy of course, which we then topped with slices of brie. And before the food police come at me, apparently brie is safe to eat in pregnancy as long as you cook it, which works perfectly because the baby wanted the brie grilled and melted to gooey perfection. For health purposes, we then added a layer of fresh raspberries and some chopped hazelnuts. And just like that, it was time for 2 worlds to collide into one very perfect sandwich. Now, I don't know if this is the pregnancy hormones talking, but I took one bite and immediately decided to work this sandwich into my birthing plan.
This is bloody sensational. I'm rating this one a 10 out of 10.
And if you made it to the end of this video, please give us a follow to see what the baby's craving next.